Hi, everyone. It's Heather with Magnificent Mommas and Magnificent Mommas, Magnificent Authors Podcast. Wow. Okay. So we're joined here today with author Healey. I'm going to let you pronounce your last name because I don't want to butcher it out of respect. So, Healey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Healey Ikerd. I am a licensed professional counselor and an author, and happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It sounds like you sure did keep busy.
I do. We have a small farm also, so we've got 6 new baby goats right now. So,
Aw,
oh, they're adorable. It's good therapy.
that's awesome. Do you have any other animals?
Chickens.
I want chickens, and my husband says no.
They're an easier animal to maintain, actually. I mean, you have to clean the poo, but other than that, like you can actually go on vacation. And it's not that hard for someone to, check in on them. So you
That's
could leave for a
awesome.
couple of days. Yeah. And
Dude, we moved out here to the country and I was like, can we have chickens now? And he's like, no.
well, if you need an advocate, I'm here for you.
Yes, that
I'll
would be awesome.
definitely tell you all the perks of having them.
Yeah, well, maybe we can talk my husband into it one of these days. It'd be fun. It'd be
Yeah.
cool. And a
Yeah.
good learning experience for my kids. So,
Oh, definitely that. And during COVID, it was very interesting because we had goat's milk and chicken eggs, and my husband hunts, and we're like, well, I mean, we're kind of okay, with
yeah.
all the groceries being off the shelves and all that. So,
Yeah, that was a intense time. And then you'd get the people that, weren't considerate of anybody else and just buying as much as they could, buying all the toilet paper and
mhm.
all the ridiculousness. They
Yeah,
don't think about each other, I guess. But
yeah,
it
it's
was,
kind of a weird time.
yeah, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, I just recently released a children's book. It's my technically my first children's book. It's called The Red Ball, and I wrote it for kids, probably ages 6 to 10. It's a little wordy. It was inspired by my mom. She grew up in East Germany and in the 40s, and it was extremely poverty stricken,
Mm.
and it was communist country, and so she had told me this story about her grandmother sending her a ball in the mail, and they didn't have many toys. Well, she had like a couple dolls and a teddy bear, I
Yeah,
think.
that's
And
what the kids nowadays have.
yes, I mean, I don't even want, it's hard to even buy gifts for kids because it's like, they've got like 10,000 things. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, so that and she would always share how grateful she was to have that, and it's just a whole different perspective. And one day I was driving home from visiting her. I'm like, I need to make that into a children's story. So that's what I did. It's based on the core part of the story is based on her, but and the character's name Renata, and that's her. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So she
Special.
is a little, yeah, the other part is not based on her life, the conflict and resolution, but she I got to the release was right around her birthday, so I got to I wrapped it up, the hardcover, and gave it to her for her birthday, and she cried. She was very touched by it. So it
Oh,
was
I
very,
bet.
yeah, sweet.
That's
Thank you.
awesome that
So,
she can experience it with you too.
yeah. So she's 84 now, I believe, or 83. No, she just turned 84. So yeah.
It's hard sometimes to keep track of all the birthdays and ages.
Yeah. I have to do years. Just what year were they born? And then I figured out from there. So
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that completely.
so that I so the book is basically a Christian book based on forgiveness, of learning how to forgive, and that was kind of the lesson that I wanted kids to kind of leave the story with, it, how important it is to forgive even if someone's hurt you. So yeah, that's what kind of the lesson learned out of it was, or hope to be.
Can I ask what prompted you to want them to learn this lesson, the children reading your
Um,
book?
Yeah, I think forgiveness is an underrated, if that's the right word, trait or behavior. And maybe it's both because some people are just naturally forgiving and some people hold grudges. But in counseling, I run into a lot of people that don't forgive, and it really just bothers them. It builds resentment and bitterness, and they can become depressed if they hold on to it for too long. Or, yeah, so I just felt like that was a trait that is a good trait to have and a good trait to especially for kids to practice and learning. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt you, but
Mm-hmm.
it means you can acknowledge the hurt, but still, not hold it against that person, especially not carry around the anger anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've been through, traumatic incidents in life and abuse and, all sorts of stuff. And I can totally understand where you're coming from saying that. I feel like forgiving people it can be really challenging, but I also think, it's important, don't get me wrong, but it's not encouraged enough, I feel like, with the younger generations like it used to be. Like, I remember being taught you're supposed to forgive people, that kind of stuff. But I feel like the younger generations, the younger kids nowadays aren't taught those values and morals. And without some of those, they're not as strong as they could be.
Yeah, we kind of focus more on justice and that sort of thing, and that's all important. But for our own mental health, we have to really be able to um, forgive overall, because people are going to hurt us in life. I mean, there's just no way around it. Like, people are going to hurt, even those that don't even mean to, like they're going to do it. So, and I don't know how you can even stay married if you don't forgive or keep friends or like almost any relationships. Like,
I mean, yeah, you're right.
yeah, I don't know how you're going to get very far. But, situations such as abuse and those that have really deep traumatic hurts, those are really hard to forgive. It's really a process for people to work through. And sometimes people say, there's no way I can forgive. But once you really understand that forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook necessarily, I mean, you are kind of like you're not holding it against them, but it doesn't take away what they did from you. And you don't have to necessarily reconcile with the person, especially if they're,
Not a good person.
right. Because it's not really healthy for you. And you don't have to go to them and tell them you forgave them. Like, it's just a something that happens for you so that you can basically be free of the burden and not carry that stuff around. Because anger, bitterness, resentment, I mean, those are killers to ourselves.
Oh, yeah. I think when people hear the stories of the stuff I went through before I was even 18, I've had a lot of people tell me they're surprised I ended up the way that I am, like that I'm not a negative person or I'm not hooked on drugs or, any of that bad stuff. And it's like, well, that was kind of my learning experience to be better than that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's about looking in my life that, I'm better than that. I'm better than that behavior. And
mm-hmm. And someone else's evil or poor decisions or sinful behavior, those things aren't what makes you. Those things are things that happen to you and not who you are. And sometimes people get that confused, that they on themselves by the trauma, and that's not really helpful. But that's the whole
I
therapeutic.
think it's made me stronger.
Oh, definitely.
I'm a better person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it probably helps you really work through other tough things that come along. Like your resilience level is, probably a lot higher than the normal folk.
I would like to think so. I mean, we all have our days and whatnot. So, I mean, we're going to have our struggles and our days where it's just you can't handle it all, and days when you can go above and beyond and handle everyone's stuff. So,
right.
So, you wrote a children's book. Do you have any other books published?
I do. I have a workbook called Changing Your Feelings. It's basically a workbook on anxiety and worry. Supposed to start off kind of small, just kind of like a little journal to help people journal some anxious feelings and practice some skills. But as I was as I was writing, I tend to be kind of wordy. So, I was like, well, I do need to like put this in there, and then I need to put this in there, and it sort of just became like exactly how I would counsel someone that came to me with anxiety or worry, and then things that I would work on with them. Like, so I just put it in the workbook. So it's like people learn a lot, but you also like actually apply the practical steps in there. So kind of like counseling, like we don't have to talk, like you go out and you do some work after it. So that's kind of how it's set up. And I talk from anxiety, worry, panic, fear, how the brain works, how to change your thoughts. So it's a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's written from a Christian perspective. So
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to have to look into that. Like, I've got anxiety, depression, PTSD, the work. My husband's got anxiety. His dad has anxiety. My daughter does not seem to have it, but she's only 15. But I've got a friend who's got severe anxiety. Like, I'm trying to see what I can say without, but can't live on his own, anything like that. And he's like the best person I know, like just the sweetest person in the world. And I hate to see him so overcome with anxiety that he can't be alone, so to speak, if that makes sense. Like, he's always with a family member, and it breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I feel when people come in and share kind of their journey with anxiety. It does make me feel very just heartbroken for them sometimes, the fact that they've like missed things because of the anxiety or not done, certain things. And the awful thing about anxiety, like some level of anxiety is okay. That's
Normal.
yeah. But when it's excessive, the thing is it kind of feeds on itself. So like if you have anxiety in one area and you don't really address it, like it can grow to other areas. So friend, like it probably didn't start off that way. It probably started off something and he didn't have the skill. I'm just guessing, but that's how it typically works. They don't either practice the skills or not enough or not consistently. And then and then it goes to something else and goes to something else. And pretty soon you can't get your thoughts managed because they're just all over.
Yeah.
So that's the work I do, is helping first people realize you can change your feelings, which is and which is hard to, for some people can't. That's a hard one because we feel like we can't help how we feel. But I think you can help how you feel. You just have to. It's a lot of work. So it basically takes what medication does, and you're doing it yourself, like changing your neural pathways in the brain. So it's work, but it's doable.
I'm definitely going to have to check out your book. I'm very curious about the workbook you said.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Definitely sounds interesting for sure. And I mean, there's so many people dealing with anxiety, whether it's diagnosed or not. Nowadays, it's sad.
Yeah. And COVID really ramped it up. Oh my goodness, tenfold, especially during that period where it started and that whole year until people started getting back to like no mask and stuff. Like because the way they talked about COVID, it almost created we were created to be fearful, right?
I worked in healthcare during that time.
It was, it was, and people were just going, you try to be brave, but it was a whole thing. Yeah. So it was a hard, mental health wise, counselors were very busy.
I bet.
So I think it just slowed down. I think I just heard in some counselor groups that, okay, like it's finally got to where it was pre-COVID. So it's taken quite a bit. Marriages, like the whole thing was.
Oh, I believe it.
Like a mental crisis.
I was working at the local hospital ER admitting, so admitting people in when COVID started. And it was like I was sanitizing papers and everything just because I was so afraid to get COVID. Like, I've had COVID 4 or 5 times now, and it's like, okay, whatever. And I'm vaccinated.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's so funny, and I can totally get the anxiety, like, especially people out working when it was bad that have, like, health issues or whatever. Like, I can see that causing even more anxiety or more fearfulness. And I mean, they made it out so bad. And majority of the people, normal, healthy people, you just feel horrible, like the flu or worse,
Yeah.
But not everyone is being hospitalized because of it. Not everyone. I'm not saying people weren't hospitalized because of COVID, because I've seen it. I'm not saying people didn't die because of it, because that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that working as a CNA in a nursing home. But unfortunately,
yeah,
got to take into all those aspects of pre-existing conditions as well.
Right.
They had the fear level on that up so high. I feel like with COVID, like, you were afraid to walk out your door. You saw people outside mowing the lawn with the masks on and nobody around.
I know, it was crazy. I guess, like, COVID seems to be top of my mind because it is that same time, like 4 years ago, that it was all it was all happening. So, but I'm glad we've gotten better and we're not so fearful now. But yeah, that amped it up. So it was a mental health crisis also. I don't think too many people were talking about that, but just being isolated, the whole thing. So I don't mean to go all into that, but
no,
some interesting memories, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where, people are gonna remember about COVID just like they remember where they were in the Twin Towers. I mean, that's so weird to think about it because it's totally different, one's health related, one's world related type of event. But it's like, oh, well, I know where I worked when that happened and I know what was going on. And all my friends got to stay home from work because their work shut down because of COVID, but I had to go to work and see everybody.
Yeah. The 9/11 thing was a lot of fear based too. Everybody was just uncertain and it was a little shorter time, but
yeah, definitely. But I'm just saying, like, the same type of memory,
yeah,
within the last 20 plus years, those are like big events that, affected like the United States. It affected other parts of the world. I mean, it really did when you think about it.
Yeah, definitely did.
So that's like a larger scale events, just the way I look at it, I guess.
Yes. It was pretty, significant in our life.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Okay, so back on books, since we had the nice COVID talk and anxiety, which, I don't care. Did you have any books you're planning on writing coming out soon or anything?
Well, I do have a poetry book out too. That's not like big public. I don't push that much. But I enjoyed writing it. I tell you, writing is very therapeutic. I encourage, if I sense anybody in session that likes to write or journal, like, I push that because it can be so helpful in healing too. So, but what I'm working on now is another children's book, and it's actually about goats. I'm in the illustration phase of that.
That's cute. To go along with the goats you have at home.
Oh, yes. I was really wanting to write a goat book, but I was like, I can't really think of anything. But then one day something came to me, and so it's basically about a little goat that has some anxiety. And he talks to his mom a lot about his questions, and she answers them for him. And so it's kind of an educational book for kids if they want to learn about goats, because I thought that would be fun. Plus, I'm in a lot of goat groups, and sometimes people get goats and they don't know anything about them, and it's really an animal you kind of need to know something about. So I thought that might be a fun way too to introduce some basics of
Yeah.
Don't care.
I never understood why people would get an animal and not, know more about them first, whether it's a snake, a hamster, any animal, farm animals. I mean,
Yeah.
they need care. They need care. And giving them the wrong care could be deadly. I mean,
Wrong food, overfeeding. I mean, giving birth to hoof trimming. I mean, shots. It's like a whole thing. You can't just, I mean, yeah, you can't feed them what you would a dog or a horse or a cow or a sheep. Like they have their own special for it. So it's just a lot. So anyway, was kind of compelled to kind of integrate that. So I hope kids enjoy it because I think it's really cute, but
that's
I'm a
awesome.
little biased. I love it. So
I think they're adorable, so it's all good. No worries.
yeah, hopping around and stuff. Yeah, they're super cute. So
I love animals in general, so if I could have a bunch, I probably would, which
yeah,
probably sounds bad psychologically, whatever, but I don't care because I want to rescue all the cute little puppy dogs and kitties, and I'm sure there's underlying, and I don't care on that part.
well, there are so many that need rescuing, so I'm sure.
They're so cute.
Oh yes, yeah.
So, any other books or any other writings, anything coming up for you? Exciting?
Well, one project I have been working on a devotional about self-worth.
Mhm.
I should call it that, maybe self-identity, but um that I because launching a book is quite the process. Like it's a lot. So I've been busy the last few years, so that's kind of been on hold, but hopefully I'll be able to pick that back up. I hope in the summer, like maybe when I get this
Yeah.
book somewhere. So yeah, I do have plans. Maybe these are too many plans, but plan also to do some continuing the Renata series. I don't know. I was thinking about making a series because she's got several more stories that I think that would be so neat to teach kids some and things. So I've got that in the back of my mind too. So that's kind of, always going on. Yeah.
That would be nice. And it's, well rounded. Like you write a variety of topic from the way it sounds, not just children's. And I think that's really inspirational to be able to do that. A lot of people just stick to one topic and you're doing more. But I mean, it's all stuff that you connect with. So,
yeah.
And inspires you. So,
yeah. When I first started like doing the children's book, like I had a lot of doubts because of that. Like I'd already had the workbook out and I'm like, that doesn't really fit. Because we're supposed to have this platform and doing all this stuff. And my message, so to speak, seemed kind of scattered. So I appreciate you saying that.
You're welcome.
I can see kind of how it all fits because it's like, I want people to live the very best that they can as mentally healthy as possible. And I believe it's possible for everybody. And I do believe it's important to teach our kids skills too. So I kind of see it all together. But I have to admit that in the beginning, I felt like I'm kind of scattered anyway, and this is feeling kind of scattered.
If you stand back and you look and say like you had each book, lined up in front of you with it, like a poster above it, what it, the goal of it's for, you would see how everything ties in.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with your job too, I mean, that's your experience, and your experience helps you, to reach to who you're wanting to help.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's interesting because I have used books so much in my counseling practice when I counsel young kids. I love to use books because I think it's a great way to introduce a topic. So if I'm teaching a child about anger, like what better way to introduce the topic than to read a book about anger or whatever. So, and that really prompted a desire in me some time ago to write, but I never did. And then my mom's story, I was like, I like that. So I wrote a few kids stories when I was young. They were pretty, I don't know, bare bones or something. I don't know what they were.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun to look back and see, oh, look how long I've been writing with a big, gigantic break in the middle.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Life.
Are you surprised that you ended up publishing books?
Yes. When I was doing the poetry, I had always thought I would love to make this into some book. And I was kind of imagining, because I hadn't heard, and maybe this was before self-publishing, but I hadn't heard, like, I really didn't even know how that would be possible. I was thinking I'd just take it down to the printer. We, put a cover. I'm going to use these things from, these different pictures. And then the internet came out. I was like, oh, I'll just take these pictures. This was before.
Oh, yeah.
Big thing about copyright and all that, or whatever it's called. But
No, I get it.
yeah. So then I was like, I can't do that. So I have to do my own pictures. So that's what I ended up doing. So thank goodness self-publishing came around. I think it gave a lot of people an opportunity who maybe wanted to do something or had dreams to do something that, now it's actually possible.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. And before, it's a lofty something out there, you hope, but with the opportunity, I mean, a traditional publisher is not going to knock on my door and go, hey, I hear you got some poetry. I would love to publish. Like,
And
that's not going to happen.
They don't really like to take debut authors, depending on if it's like vanity, they want money up front, if not everyone can do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the traditional publishers they need gigantic platforms. And that's just not who I am or what I want to do is have, 10,000 followers. I mean, I like to write and I like that people read it and maybe are encouraged by it. But so like traditional publishing is basically probably off my, like, I don't know how that would ever happen. I won't say never, but
yeah,
the likelihood of that for me is probably not going to happen. And that's okay with me because I think there are enough publishers that are the hybrid.
Yeah.
Some people warn against that, but I think as long as you've done your homework and you think it's a fair price, then why not? I mean, I feel like I had a publisher do my children's book and I felt like they were a good price considering all the, the illustrations they do, the editing and all that. And I thought it was fair and that's what I paid. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. But some people were like, no. So I don't know.
I mean, I think like you said, you have to do your research on it and you have to make sure they're legit too. I mean, some people don't know to do research and they think, oh, hey, I'm talking to a publisher. They want $5,000.
Right.
They'll get me published.
Right.
But then it turns out they're not a publisher or,
They just take your money and do minimal work. I just had someone call me. They're like, oh, are you Healey? Did you write the Red Ball? Oh, we would love to have that in our bookstore. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, well, if you want it, you can just order it off the thing, so you don't need to contact me. They were from New York. I knew they were a scammer, but I like to mess. So,
that's awesome.
So anyway, he's going on. And I'm like, oh, he goes, okay, so for only $399, you can have your book in our bookstore. I'm like, sir, why would I do that? I can walk down to my local bookstore and do but
yeah, that's silly.
Like people get you want your book in a bookstore so bad, I mean, people might do that and think it sounded, because he didn't sound scamish.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have to pay to have your book in a bookstore. That's just,
I think it's funny. Like
on your van.
I help promote authors and their books. And so every now and then I'm putting up a post in Facebook, about the free promotions I offer, that type of stuff. And then I'll get the scammers that are like, oh, I can help you get your book out there. Your book looks really good. Okay. Do you know the name of my book? No. Okay. Well, here's the thing. My books are through Kindle Vella because doing a little bit at a time works for my ADHD brain.
I'm with you on that.
And, so I like it. It works for me. Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. So I have not promoted my book. I have not, marketed, nothing. Because right now I'm solely focused on my business. And yes, it's the same type of thing, but I feel like I'm not trying to doubly promote myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. Business, yes. Authors, yes. Myself, later. Not worried about it. It's just funny. So whenever they say, oh, I saw your book or I read your book or whatever, I'm like, you did? Okay. Because not very many people know that it's out there, and you'd probably have to search for it. So I think that's funny.
When I first created my Facebook page, the Written by Healey, and it was oh my goodness, they come out of the word, "Are you an author?" Da-da-da-da-da. And I fell for the first one, like, yeah, and oh well, send me your link to it on Amazon. I like, well, you could just search my name. Like, why do I need to send you the link? Like, yeah, they just come out from everywhere in messaging. I mean, like everywhere. It's a whole
I get it.
A whole new scammy world.
Well, maybe they'll read your books and learn not to become scammers.
Right.
I mean,
let's develop some mentally healthy traits. How about just doing a normal job and do things the authentic way, like you and your business are doing? Like, just do what you say. And
I want to thank everyone for listening today, and thank you for Healey for joining us as our special guest today. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you, guys.